Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, Dr. Coco's Mnemonics. Today I'm going to be going over visual field and the defects that come up in the visual field. When I've had questions on like NBMEs and UWorld about this, I just take my scratch piece of paper and I do this really rough drawing to kind of help me figure out where in the visual field the problem is and what it would look like in a patient. And so first I'm going to show you my little drawing. We have our eyes up here, and it's going to cross over, so you make an X. That right there is going to be the optic nerve. Where it crosses is the chiasm, because chiasm literally means cross. So you can remember that's the optic chiasm, and this is the optic tract. And those is going to synapse right there at the lateral geniculate nucleus. And we know it's going to be lateral because it's for light. The lateral geniculate nucleus versus the medial is for music. So that would be the medial geniculate nucleus for auditory. So visual, light, lateral geniculate nucleus. And then these are going to split off into optic radiations that go and are located in either the parietal or the temporal lobe. And these all go to the primary visual cortex. So this is the drawing that I make every time I have a question. Very simple, very easy, but it helps you figure out like what's going on, where you're at. And then next I'm going to show you kind of where the different pathways are. And so here I have a little bit better drawing where I have like the optic nerve, chiasm, and tract. Everything's labeled for you. And then we also have the lens up here, and the lens is going to invert and reverse images. And so that just means that if it's in this middle area, it's going to cross over. So it's going to be this blue. Okay? And then when we get the hemianopsias, they're going to invert as well. And so here's my bad drawing of going from the blue. We cross over the lens. Okay, and we go down the middle, down the chiasm to the optic tract to the lateral geniculate nucleus. And we do the same thing on this side. So we start on the outside, and then we cross over. And the red is a little different. The red's not going to cross like that. So you're going from this nasal section, crossing over the lens, and these red ones are going to stay on the outside area. And so I draw this out literally every time I have a question, and it helps a lot. But when you put it all together, it looks kind of messy. So I wish we had colored pencils or something during the exam. When you get down to this lateral geniculate nucleus, this is the first synapse. And then everything's going to go to both optic radiations, both the parietal and temporal radiations. And I just remember this as P and T, kind of like physical therapy. So the parietal and temporal. And when you do this, the parietal one is going to cause an inferior defect, even though it's like on the superior part of your brain, because it is going to invert, right? Versus the temporal would be a little bit more inferior, but because it inverts, the temporal is going to cause a superior. And I just remember that's ST because they come close in the alphabet. And then these synapse into the primary visual cortex. Here's a picture I drew when I was taking neurology. If you want to take a screenshot of this, I highly recommend it because it has most of the things that you would see as far as the visual field defects. And so if we have a problem up here in their optic nerve, we follow this up on both this red and blue. It's just going to affect this right eye. And so we'll have a defect in the vision of our right eye. But our left eye is fine. I mean, all of this over here, it still goes to the lateral geniculate nucleus. It still does all of its synapses. Versus if we look at number 2, this is at the optic chiasm. And so if we follow this blue up, that's going to be on the temporal side. Follow this blue up, that's on the temporal side as well. Is this the number one that they like to ask on NBMEs and UWorld? Because what's laying right here on this optic chiasm is the pituitary gland. And so if you have like a prolactinoma or something that would push on this, that's where you'll have like a female who's saying I'm having galactorrhea and then I'm having bitemporal hemianopsia. And so on the temporal side of their eye, they can't see and their peripheral vision sucks. They can only really see in the center. So bitemporal hemianopsia is here in this optic chiasm. Number 3 is going to be on the optic tract. So if you follow this red line up, 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 and cross, so that's the nasal side. Then we're going to follow this blue guy up, 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 and over, and that's over here on this temporal side. So that was both the left sides of the eye, right? And so you're going to have left hemianopsis, hemianopsia, homoanopsis, hemianopsia, sorry. So you're not going to have the visual field on the left side of your eye if you have a problem in this optic tract. Then we have these optic radiations, and I said, right, this one was parietal and this one was temporal. And so the parietal lobe is going to be more superior on your brain, but when you do this and you inverse it, this is going to cause a inferior quadrantinopia down here versus the temporal lobe is going to cause a superior quadrantinopia. And I remember that more as ST because those are right next to each other on the in the alphabet, ST and then PI. So PI and then ST. Down here, number 5, we have a problem in the primary visual cortex. And when you have this problem, it's not going to be a quadrantinopia because it's not just one of the optic radiations. So when we take out both of these optic radiation synapses right here, we're going to have a left homoanopsis hemianopsia. It's basically going to be the same thing as this right here, and this number 3 on the optic tract, but the only difference is, for whatever reason, when you have a problem down here at the primary visual cortex, you're going to have macular sparing. That seems to be high yield, and I'm not 100% sure why it happens. I may have known during neurology, but that's not high yield as far as STEP goes. The last one that I want to go over is if you have an internal carotid artery, say aneurysm, or like a little bubble right here. So that say this little internal carotid artery is bubbling right here and it's pushing on this red one. And you followed it up, doop, doop, doop. And right here is where you will have a nasular hemianopsia. So the carotid artery is out here. And don't confuse that with a problem in the optic chiasm, number 2, okay? Because that one will cause temporal issues, versus the carotid is pushing on this outside, causing nasular issues. Hopefully this picture helped you a little bit. Like I said, if you can just draw this out 2 or 3 times, very simple drawing, I think you'll get any question that you need on STEP as far as a visual pathway defect. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel.